friends, welcome back to my kitchen. So this week I'm going to take you with me through the week. We are going to prep our dinners together. I have been a little bit more on a kick of prepping my meals night by night versus doing a lot of big meal preps and then using the meals throughout the week. It's just the season of life I'm in, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and film it that way and just take you along with me. For Monday night, we are going to be making some really simple chicken thighs. I'm all about looking for those budget-friendly proteins that really make your grocery budget have a little sigh of relief whenever you add it to the cart. And chicken thighs are one of those things. They are just a great way to get your protein in, and they're really easy to make. And today has been a rather busy day for me. I've had a lot of work on my plate, so I just wanted a very, very simple meal today. We are also going to pair those chicken thighs up with some easy rice and also some garlic green beans. So let's get into it. I have already preheated my oven to 400 degrees, and I have, oh, there it's just telling me that it's preheated. I have a cookie sheet here with a baking rack on it and also some parchment for easy cleanup. And we're just going to lay these chicken thighs. I grabbed my tongs to make this easier, but we're gonna just lay these chicken thighs on the rack. And these are bone-in as well as skin-on. And because they have the skin on, they're going to drip some fat. And with the rack, it's going to help elevate that meat out of the fat drippings and enable the chicken to get crispy. Next, we are going to take our Graza Sizzle oil. And this is the glass bottle, which I think has such an ingenious top on it to be able to still drizzle it across. So I'm just going to drizzle it over my chicken thighs. Easy as that. Now you can use whatever seasoning you want. I'm just going to use an all-purpose seasoned salt. I like to be pretty liberal with my seasoning because then the skin on the chicken is like just so delicious when you have it heavily seasoned. Now all we're gonna do is pop this in the oven at 400 for about 35 minutes. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't know why it took me so long to purchase a rice cooker. We are a mostly gluten-free family, and so we do eat rice pretty regularly, and it dawned on me as I have some children getting old enough to help me out in the kitchen and they are doing their own cooking, to pick up a really inexpensive rice cooker so that they can make rice themselves and I don't have to worry about things, you know, getting a little overdone and all of that. In the process of them using it, I've also fallen in love with using it. Just makes things so much easier. So this rice cooker is very simple to use. I have my rice already scooped out here, and it is a brown rice. I'm just gonna put that in the bottom of the rice cooker. I'm not gonna plug it in because as soon as you plug it in, it does turn on. In the back of the rice cooker back here, there is measurement lines, so it just makes everything really easy. Now I am using bone broth just to add extra protein to my rice. To this, I'm gonna add a drizzle of my extra virgin olive oil. And then we had made this homemade chicken bouillon in a video not that long ago. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons. Now this is to 2 cups of rice. I find that that makes a nice seasoning. Now all I gotta do is cover it and push the button and it will turn off onto a warm setting on its own whenever it's done. Garlic green beans are one of our favorite sides here in our house, and they're really simple to make. So I'm gonna walk you through the steps of how we do that, but I do wanna say a big thank you to Graza for sponsoring today's video. They are part of what makes our green beans, garlic green beans, so delicious. So I have turned my cast iron onto a medium heat. We're gonna add in some of the Sizzle extra virgin olive oil from Graza. My pro tip for making green beans is to buy the extra fine green beans. While our pan is heating up over there, I'm going to go ahead and mince my garlic. I don't have any in my freezer right now. Sometimes I mince up a bunch to have in my freezer, but I don't have that right now. And our family is a huge fan of garlic. So I usually put in more than I regularly would, or if I had guests coming over, I wouldn't put in this much garlic, but we love all the extra garlic. I have gone through so many bottles of Graza's high quality, crazy fresh olive oil that's at an everyday price point. It's always fresh, never blended, and single origin, which is important to me. It's made from the world's best olives that are picked, pressed, bottled all in the same season. You can even see the harvest date on every bottle. I'm telling you, after using Graza for quite some time, it would make the perfect holiday gift. Graza's holiday lineup, the duo gift sets, 2 iconic extra virgin olive oils are super cute and ready to gift in a box. Not only is it available in the classic squeeze bottle that we have loved so much, but you can also get it in a glass bottle format as well. The duo gift set is perfect for your grandma, uncle, friend, neighbor, or anyone who cooks, which is probably most of you watching, right? Maybe you need to put this on your wish list for someone in your life to get for yourself. So check out the link in the description box or scan the QR code here and use my code to get 10% off of your order. Once I start to hear the sizzle happening, I will drizzle it with a bit more oil. At this point, I also add in a few pinches of salt. Once the green beans get to a tenderness that you and your family enjoy, I like to make a little nest or kind of a little spot in the middle of the pan. I will drizzle some olive oil in the middle and then add in my minced garlic. Then I will kind of fry the garlic in the middle of my nest for just a little bit until it starts to get a bit translucent, and then I'll mix everything together. This chicken has made the kitchen smell so delicious. And if you want the tops to be crispy and for some reason they don't come out really crispy, for you can always put them under the broiler in your oven just to crisp them up just for a few seconds or a minute or so, and it will help the skins to get even crunchier. I am just going to finish this off with the drizzle extra virgin olive oil from Graza. It is a finishing oil and it brings such a pop of flavor to anything. So this wraps up Monday's meal. Everybody loved this meal. I think this is going to give you guys some great inspiration in seeing meals that are actually plated and how we eat different things together. And now let's move on to Tuesday. Tuesday, we were getting together with some friends from our church, and the theme of the evening was soups and sandwiches. So I decided to take along this sausage and potato soup. I actually had never made this before, and you guys, this was such a hit. I got so many compliments on it, and it's definitely going into my handwritten recipe book as a staple. My husband loved it, my children loved it, and I'm going to be making it again. I also put some bacon on to be making up some bacon cheddar ranch pinwheels, since I thought that would be a little twist on more of a sandwich type thing that you could have with your soup. So I started out by cutting my potatoes up into nice little bite-sized pieces. These types of nights are so fun because everybody brings something different and you end up with such an interesting meal. And it also takes the weight off of one person having to do a lot of the cooking. We can all bring different bits and pieces. So I did use an Italian style sausage for this. You just fry that up in the bottom of your pan. I used my Dutch oven, one of my favorite kitchen tools. And once the sausage is all fried up, I put the diced onion into the bottom. Again, these recipes will be linked below if there is a recipe for something, and sometimes I type them out as well, depending on where the recipe comes from. Sometimes it's a recipe from my mom or something like that, but I try my best to make sure everything is in the description box. And you guys are so great as my viewers to correct me. Sometimes I have duplicate links or a link that doesn't work, and it's so nice when you guys let me know that. So I cut up the other veggies. We got onions and the celery in the pan, and of course I'm adding olive oil to that as well. And I'm also kind of putting my bacon through in batches. I did about a pound of bacon. While all of that was frying, I went ahead and took a bunch of cheddar cheese and put it through my food processor because I was going to need cheese for both the soup and the pinwheels. So I decided to go ahead and just knock this all out. And I'm always thinking about ways to make less dishes. So you're going to see how I'm going to do that by reusing the food processor here in a moment. So once all of my veggies were very tender, the carrots were tender, I put in there as well. I made a little spot in the middle of all of those for my garlic, fresh pressed some garlic, and then put some butter in just to help cook that garlic up until it's really aromatic and you start to really smell it. Then you know that it's time to stir it into the rest of your recipe. After that, I dumped in my potatoes, and I did give them just a minute or two before I added in the chicken broth to sort of soak up some of the flavor from the stir-fried veggies. I felt like that would help to add more flavor to the potatoes. So I let them sit for a few minutes. Now we're back over to the food processor. I was like on double time because we were going to be late if I didn't hurry up. So I added 2 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese, and then you can do a packet of ranch powder as the recipe suggests, or I did use some of my own homemade ranch powder that we have made together before. And I used the dough paddle attachment on my food processor just because it was already messy from the cheese. Why not go ahead and use it to mix up our cream cheese mixture? Okay, so as you saw, I added the broth into the potatoes, and then in a saucepan I put some butter. We're going to make a cream sauce. So I put some butter, let it melt, and then I'm adding in some flour. You can use all-purpose flour or a gluten-free alternative, which is what I use. And you're going to end up with sort of a paste in the bottom of the pan. Don't worry, just move quickly so you don't burn anything. I add a little bit of milk and I just start to whisk it until that paste really dissolves. And what you're going to do is end up with a thicker sauce because that flour is going to end up thickening this. You'll see here in a bit as after it simmers just a bit. So back over to our pinwheels. I was like back and forth, back and forth. I am taking that cream cheese and ranch powder mixture and I am smearing it onto some wraps. Now you can use any type of wrap that you want to. These are just a regular flour tortilla style wrap. And you're going to put a not too thin, not too thick layer across there. You're going to add in your cheddar cheese and then you're going to add in your bacon. I did take a kitchen shears and just chop up my bacon into nice sized pieces. And then you're going to roll everything really tightly together, as tight as you can get it. And ideally, if you can refrigerate these for a couple of hours before you slice them, that's the most ideal situation. But I didn't have time for that today. So they did seem a little bit on the crumbly side in my opinion. I definitely recommend if you have the time to refrigerate them, no matter what type of pinwheels you do. So there's many different kinds. If you didn't know these existed, just go on Pinterest and look up pinwheels. There are like fiesta style pinwheels. You can dip in salsa. There are just quite a few different ones you can do. Now we're going to add our cream sauce into the soup. This is going to come together really quickly now. And this is where I kept some broth off to the side just to decide how thick or thin I needed it. So I did end up, after putting the sausage back in and adding my heavy cream and shredded cheese, I did end up adding a bit more broth. And the reason this is so creamy is because, yes, you have heavy cream, shredded cheese, you already have the creaminess from the potatoes, and then you also add in sour cream. I mean, dairy overload, but it's so worth it. And in the past, I've had soups that were similar to this and have wondered how in the world they got them so creamy. And now I have the answer. I'm telling you, if you're making something for a crowd, this is going to be a crowd pleaser, I promise. Great recipe to hang on to through the holidays and having people together. So once my soup was ready, I just let it kind of simmer a little bit while I put these onto a pan. I like to use a serrated knife to slice these. You can slice them as thin or as thick as you like, or as they hang together. You probably wouldn't want to go too thin with them. And then I'm just going to layer them into a plate. And they were also a super great hit on the night that we had these with friends. All right, friends, we've made it halfway through the week and I have a delicious quick meal. We've literally been gone all day today. I had a wonderful day, just running errands, did something with some friends, and now I need a fast meal. So it's like racking my brain on what I could make quickly and it still be really delicious, because my husband called me and said he's really hungry and he wants something that is a favorite. So I had to think through, and something I have actually made on this channel before but just haven't made in quite a while is bacon wrapped pork tenderloin. And also, since we were talking earlier in the video about inexpensive proteins, pork tenderloin is another really inexpensive protein. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the US, most of the time they sell 2 cuts of pork tenderloin together. So they usually have 2 separate strips, which are behind me. So I'm gonna show you how we'll prepare the meat. I have my oven preheated. With that, we're gonna do some quick mashed potatoes and also some peas. The first thing I'm going to do is take a seasoned salt and just kind of season the pieces of meat, just shaking it over and then flipping them. You can use whatever seasoned salt you prefer. This is just an all-purpose seasoning. If you use a seasoning mixture that doesn't have salt, you may want to add just a bit. Next, we're going to take a little bit of mustard. Mustard is such a great pairing with pork. I don't know what it is other than there is some vinegar generally in yellow mustard and just the flavoring of the yellow mustard. We often do this when we put things on my husband's smoker, especially if we do like a pork butt or something like that, is we will use mustard on the cut of meat. Now at this point, I'm actually going to take one of them and just set it over here on my plate that I've prepared, because we're gonna need just a bit of space to do the next step. So I bought a pound of bacon, and about 7 pieces is half of this pack of bacon. And I do recommend you do not do thick cut bacon for this, because a lot of times it doesn't fry as crispy or bake as crispy in the oven. So I'm just going to set these strips of bacon underneath of my pork loin. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. It's a little hard to change camera angles when my hands are messy. And I did want to make a note on this, that if you're someone that does not eat pork, you can still do this with turkey bacon and chicken breast. Same idea, just use those things, because I know not everybody eats pork. All right, so once you have the bacon kind of just spread out along the tenderloin, I pre-measured everything so that as I'm making a mess, I'm not touching things and spreading germs. So that's why I started out with my seasoning. So we're going to take some brown sugar. I'm using about 3 tablespoons per loin. And this is actually a monk fruit brown sugar, so it's not technical sugar, just because we eat a lot of low sugar options in our house, and it works great for recipes like this. And speaking of the smoker, you can also do these on the smoker, and we've done that before. I've also done this in the air fryer before, but tonight we'll just be putting it in the oven. The great thing is the bake time on this is very, very short, and so it's a fast, you wouldn't think, right? You would think it would be kind of fancy and take a ton of time, but it's a fast recipe to throw together. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing to the other one. And if you're wondering, yes, we usually use our leftovers for lunches around here. So generally, I do make a meal most evenings. I've placed both of these on to a cookie sheet with a baking rack in it, kind of like we used earlier in the week. And no, I don't generally use my baking rack as much as I am this week, twice in 1 week, but it just so happened to happen. And I'm gonna take some maple syrup and drizzle the top of these with maple syrup. Again, this is a low sugar option maple syrup, but you could just use regular real maple syrup. Now we're gonna put these into the oven at 425 Fahrenheit for around 25 to 30 minutes. Once my pork loin was in the oven, I went ahead and focused on my mashed potatoes. And if you've been around for a while, this past year I have switched to pretty much always using red potatoes as much as I possibly can. And then I do my mashed potatoes in a quick way where I don't peel them, because you can eat the skin of the red potato. It's really thin. My family does not care that it's in there. They actually kind of enjoy the texture. And so that is how I make my mashed potatoes so quick. I mean, close to the speed of a box mix, to be honest with you. I also got my peas cooked up and I put some butter in with them. Now, once the potatoes were cooked and nice and tender, I added some butter. So I just kind of take my butter and break it up, and I don't measure anything. It's usually just eyeballing how many potatoes I have and then adding in the butter that looks good enough to me. I'm also adding in one of Kinder's buttery seasoning. This one is really, really good, and I love this type of seasoning for my mashed potatoes. Then I add in sour cream, and we don't do a lot of regular milk, so I have almond milk on hand, and I just will add in a splash or so of the almond milk and then kind of work it with my hand masher. I know there's so many ways you can mash mashed potatoes, but I just love my good old-fashioned hand masher. It goes great in my dishwasher, comes out clean every time, and it's just easy. I don't have to get it into my mixer or anything like that. After the pork loin was done, I got it out and sliced it, and oh my Lanta, this was so good. Everyone in my family raved about this meal and really, really liked the pork loin. Lately, I have been trying to be mindful of getting some fresh veggies into our diet. So salads and other things like that, even veggies and dip, that type of thing. And so yesterday I was thinking about the fact that we haven't had any raw veggies this week. So I decided I'm gonna go ahead and make up a broccoli salad. This is a really easy way to get in some raw veggies, and there's so many different variations. I'm gonna work with what I have on hand. A lot of times I put bacon in it, but today I don't have any bacon thawed out, and I'm not gonna worry about that. We're gonna find another way to put some crunch into it. And also I have something that's gonna help me out big time. I pulled out a freezer meal, and so we're gonna work with all of that together with some sweet potatoes. Before we start cutting up the veggies and everything over here, this is what I pulled out of the freezer. We had made this together in a video. It might have been the last video, the one before that. But it's just some cilantro lime chicken, and I'm going to go ahead and make this in my cast iron. So I'm gonna get that heating with some oil in it so that we can put this in the frying pan. Like I said, I got my oven preheating to roast up sweet potatoes. We do this about once a week. And if I do more of these weekly style videos, you're gonna see that there are certain things that are definitely in rotation and on repeat. Sweet potatoes is one of them. Potatoes in general, honestly. Rice is another one. And then we often do, which this week we didn't, but we often do like some sort of a taco, whether it's taco salad or tacos or burrito bowls, something like that. Something Southwest with Southwest flavors. I try to shoot to have meals done in about 30 minutes. So a lot of the meals that you're seeing this week, it's probably around the 30 to 40 minute mark that it takes for me to make dinner. I started out by putting some of my graza oil into my pan, and then I just laid the chicken breast in the pan. Now I did have the pan for a medium to high heat, and then I'm going to turn it back, and that's going to create that nice brown crust that is so good on meat. And I've learned that this seems to work really well, especially for chicken breast, where you do have to make sure everything is cooked through. And you guys, I do pretty much faithfully use my meat thermometer. I'm one that I just don't trust myself. And I used to really overcook meat because I was scared that it wasn't done all the way through. So whenever I have my meat thermometer, I can just pull it as soon as it gets to temperature, and then it's nice and tender. While the chicken was frying, I went ahead and diced up my sweet potatoes, and they were just plain Jane. You guys have seen me do this so many times because we eat it so often as a side. So sweet potatoes are a bit better for you than regular potatoes. They have more fiber and they contain a little bit more nutrients than regular potatoes. So that is one reason I try to rotate them in our diet pretty regularly. After I dice them, I'm just going to add oil to them, and then you could just do salt and pepper. You could do whatever seasoning flavor mixture you enjoy. Of course, I'm adding in more of the buttery seasoning. I use that a lot when I have it around. So I did put some in the bag. I shake it around. I really like this bag method because I feel like I get everything coated really well, and I'm not as wasteful with the oil. It's not just sitting in the bottom of the bowl. I feel like I'm able to mix it through the potatoes a bit better. Next, I line a sheet with some parchment paper. I dump out the potatoes and I put them in the oven. One little tip I will give you is that I often end up putting them under the broiler just a little bit so that they get kind of some of the black tips on them. I really like that, and so does my husband. And so it gives it more of that true roasted flavor and look and texture whenever you put them under the broiler. Okay, so heading in to our broccoli salad. This, again, I don't use measurements, but I'll try to find a recipe that's pretty similar to what I do and leave it in the link below. But I start out with some mayo. This all has to do with how much broccoli I have. So I was like eyeballing the broccoli and sort of doing my measurements off of that. So I do mayo, I do some W sauce, and then I also do some mustard. And I mix all of that together, and then I cut my broccoli up or tear it up. Sometimes it's a little less messy to tear your broccoli into pieces, and so I was tearing it up and putting it all into your dish. There is so many ways to make broccoli salad, and if you haven't made it very often, highly recommend it. It holds up pretty well in the refrigerator, just like coleslaw or anything else that would be a salad like that. And you can eat it for your lunches through the week. There's so many it goes with like so many things. It just reminds me of a regular salad, just another veggie salad. So I flipped my chicken, and then I went ahead and added some of my cheese, my shredded cheese, to the broccoli salad. And then to give it some extra crunch, I did add in these pumpkin seeds. You can put sliced almonds in this. You can put pecans. You can add in a lot of different things. You could even do those Parmesan crisps. That would be really good in this, just to add extra texture and crunch. This was another hit meal, and I'm going to continue to try to add more marinades to my freezer because it's just so helpful to just add veggie sides to your marinated meat. Okay, so Friday, this is a meal we do on an every other week basis just because it's a favorite around here, and honestly, it's so inexpensive, and it's just, yeah, I would say it's one of the ultimate budget-friendly meals in my opinion. So it is loaded potatoes, and I just take the amount of potatoes that we need for our family, and I take a fork and I roll them in foil. You can do potatoes many different ways as far as baked potatoes. You can do them in your pressure cooker. Yeah, there's a lot of ways. You can even boil potatoes to do this, really. So on the side, I like to make steamed broccoli. Some of us like to put it on our potato. Some of us like to eat it on the side, but at least we're getting a green veggie in. And then we use 2 pounds of ground pork. Now, this you can adjust depending on the size of your family and how much you feel like you might need. And we have different toppings, but I would say there's probably about 6 or so different toppings that we use on a consistent basis. Cheese being one of them. We love to add cheese to the top of this mixture, and so I did shred up some cheddar cheese, and sharp cheddar is my personal favorite. And you could do any type of cheese that you want to. You could even make a cheese sauce for on top of this, and it would be really, really good. But I love using the ground pork because it's so inexpensive, but it's an easy thing to stay on budget and still have protein in your meal. So to the pork, I add a little drizzle of barbecue sauce, not too much. We're not gonna load it up like we would if you're making sloppy joes or barbecued beef. And then I also have a little secret ingredient. This is my home canned sweet pepper relish. It is so good. I've made it in the past in a video, and I really should make an updated video of it because we use it so often in this meal. And so that's it. That's when I stir it all together. Sometimes I add a little water if it depends on the consistency of the meat. And then we like to top everything off with some sriracha if you like spicy, sour cream, ranch, and canned jalapenos. And unfortunately, I'm out of my home canned ones, but you can do whatever. You could do bacon bits. I mean, anything. You can empty your fridge and put it on top of a potato. And it works out so well. And like I said, we do this every other week. It is on a staple. It's one of my husband's favorite meals, and everybody can kind of customize it to their liking, which I think is why it's such a popular meal in our home. And we've even done it for having guests over as well, doing like a loaded potato bar. So I hope that this week of meals really inspired you, and I hope that if you're new, you hit that subscribe button and get lots more meal prep inspo here on my channel. I'm so glad to be back at creating meals and sharing them with you all for sure. Leave me a comment below. I love hearing from you all, and give this video a like, and I'll see you in the next video.